Welcome back. Part 3 of how to knit the paw hat or any hat on a worsted weight. It's a general all-around how to knit a hat kind of tutorial. This is part 3 of that. I have a whole, I'll link you to the series on the hats. But this one happens to be in worsted weight. Okay, so let me show you where we are here. We're sitting at, there we go, right at 7 inches, right where we need to be. So now I have done 2 stitches after the stitch marker to make sure that the stitch marker stays in place. In order to do our we're going to start our decreases, and then we will move to the double pointed needles. But we can do several rows of decrease before we do that. So we're going to count to 9. So 1, 2. We're going to keep knitting. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we're at 9. So we're going to take these 2 right next to each other. We're going to pick them up just like that, and we're going to knit those 2 together. So it's knit 2 together, decrease. Okay, let's do it again. I'm going to do this all the way around. 1, and if you hear barking or noise that you're not sure what it is, it's barking. And it's Duke, my dog, outside. And there's coyotes out there, and he is barking at the coyotes. But that is his job. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is 9. So we're going to take the 2 right here. So I come to the left side of the one next to that one and get both of them. Go right through both of them. And just knit those 2 together and pull that off. That's a knit 2 together. Okay, do this all the way around on every 9th stitch. Knit 2 together, and I'll meet you back when we come back around. I'm coming up to the last couple of decreases on this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Now I get the one number 9 and the one next to it. Knit those 2 together. We should have just one more of those left. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and there's 2 left right before the stitch marker. We knit those 2 together, and now we move the stitch marker over, and on this next row you're going to knit all the way around. Then when we come back, our next decrease, we're going to knit 7 and knit the next 2 together, so 8 and the one next to it. So we did a repetition of 9s. The next one we'll do a repetition of 8s. And we're going to continue this along until we get down to the last few. So let me do my knit row, just knit all the way around. We'll do the 8s, and I'll see you back. Okay, we're back around. We did our first decrease, which was on the 9s, and now we're going to, I knit all the way around, 1 row of knit. Now we're going to do it on the 8s. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, and this is 8, so we do that and the one next to it. Now you're going to notice that looks a little bit different there, because that's where you did your decrease last time, is right in here. And you'll start to see that you'll get almost a raised, it's not going to be raised, it's just going to be, it will look raised later on, we're going to have like a star pattern up at the top. So that's 8. Now I will tell you this, probably will change it over to the double pointed needles. After this row, do your 8s, then do a full knit round, and then when we come back, we'll probably switch it over to our double point needles. So 1, 2, 7. Now this is 8 and the one next to it. And see, you can kind of see where you did it the last time here. You're going to, each time you're going to come right up to that from the time before. Okay, I will see you do your 8s, do your knit round, and when we come back, we'll go to double point needles. Okay, you guys, that was 8. So now we're going to 7s. So we are going to take our double point needles out. And you should be using the same size of double point needles that you use for the 16-inch needles. Now I have one left on this side because I'm holding that stitch marker. And this is very, very simple. I'm going to pull that needle. Okay, this is the one that has a stitch marker, and we're going to go this way. This one I kind of pull up so that all of the stitches kind of get run down. That way they don't fall off of this needle over here. Get that out of my way. Now we're going to transfer these stitches over to this needle. And this is how we're going to go. We're going to come in from the right and across the front and take that stitch off. Now I'm going to transfer my stitch marker. You don't want to lose your stitch marker yet. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. The reason I'm doing that is because we're going to do it in 7s this next time. So just go ahead and put 14 on. Now put 14 on the next one. And that one, you just put your stitches so they're right in the center of that double point needle. Now we're going to use the next one. 1, 2, now scooch them over. All right, where was I? That's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Scooch them kind of to the middle of there. And now I get the next one. I think I probably should have done 21 as opposed to 14. So I'm going to go ahead and put another 7 on this one. Which is about all that I probably would put as far as the room on the needle. And that should work us pretty good for this last one. That's actually 22 because we're over 1 from there. So now we're done with that needle. We have gotten all of them off. They're all situated onto our double point needles. It doesn't have to be exact with the number of stitches on. You could split them evenly. I did it the way I did it because I know what I'm fixing to do as far as the next round. That's the easiest way for me. But if you want to put them evenly on there, you go for it. You're still going to have to shift them a little bit when you're doing your decrease. So now we're going to knit this last one, and that was the last one for our knit row. Transfer the stitch marker. Now I'm going to tighten that up. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the next one is 7, so we do 7 and the one next to it. Split that a little bit. Add a little split. Okay, let me go back to another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess I did not count that properly. Okay, just making sure I put it in the right place. Now I'm going to come straight over here. And this is the 7th one. So 7 and the one next to it. And that's what I mean by sometimes you may have to shift back and forth on your double points. Now see, that's loose. I'm going to go in to put my needle into the next one and tighten it. So you want to make sure that you are tight, like not cinched, but tightened up right here where the 2 needles are. And then another one, and I tighten again. So that's 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, and this next one is 7 and the one next to it. Knit 2 together. One, I'm going to scooch that down. That's 4. These are pretty good. I just kind of make sure they're all kind of on the needle in the middle. Now I get the next one. 5. Tighten. 6, 7, and the next one. 5. Lost count. Was thinking about something else. 3, 4. This is 5. Six, and now, and you can kind of tell. See how we're coming up? It's pulling together right here. So that's 7 and the one next to it. Four, 5, 6, 7, and the one next to it. Give it a little tug right there. All right. Now I have one left here. Go ahead and knit that one. And now that one is free again, and this next one goes to the next one, and we just continuously go around. Every time we free a needle, we turn, and we use that free needle to do the next needle. So there was one there, so you just keep track of your count as you go around. That's 2. Now I'm going to tighten that between these 2 needles. Make sure there's not a space there. That's 3. Give it another little tug. 4. 5. 6, 7, and the one next to it. And all I am looking at right now are these 2 needles. That's all I'm concerned with. Knit 2 together. Now we're going to go on to the next set. 6, 7, and the one next to it. Five, 6. Now we came up to a lone one and we need to put 2 together. And the reason we have a lone one is because when we finished, we had one right here in front of the stitch marker. So in this case, I'm going to take this needle, run it back to here. I take that last one and put it onto that needle so that it can be knit together with this other one. Now I'm going to knit those 2 together because that was 6, 7, and the one next to it. Now I'm going to switch my stitch marker over, give it a little tug, tighten all that up, and continue to knit. And so now this row is a knit row all the way around. And then the next round will be on the 6s. So we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the one next to it. And then you will knit around. Then it will be on the 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the one next to it. Knit 2 together. And do that all the way around, and then knit around. Okay, so I'm going to go on with that. I will come back to you when we're on the 2s. So go all the way up to 1, 2, and then 3, and the one next to it. You get what I mean. So just do that, and then you knit in betweens, and I will see you back. Okay, we are at the very top. I wanted to show you how mine is looking. Okay, and also I wanted to show you when you look at the top of your hat, like put your hands inside of it and turn it up to look. You can see how we have been decreasing and all of it is moving closer to the inside, closer towards the middle. We can tell we just have a few rows left to go. So I am now on the 2s. So we can do that together because it might be confusing knowing what the 2 means. So I'm going to do that first one. Then I'm going to transfer my stitch marker. And now we are on to the row. So that was the last one of the other row. Okay, so this is 1. And then this is the 2. So it'd be this one and then one next to it. Tighten that up. 1. 2. So we're going to knit those 2 together. At this point, when you start getting down to less stitches all the way around, you may want to switch down to only 3 DPNs. I'm going to keep it like this for the moment, but just so you know that that is something you can do. You don't have to do all 4 because you can fit them on the 3. So, where's my yarn? One, and this is the 2. Tighten. Sorry about that. Camera did something funny. 1, and this is 2, so we will do both of these. And I am trying to keep these stitches fairly tight as I go along. Otherwise, it does get a little bit gappy at the top if you don't. Okay. 1 and 2, so these two together. One, and now it's 2. Okay, now I'm going to finish this up, and then we're going to do another row of knit, and then we're going to do the ones, and I'll be back for that. Okay, now we are down to our last stitch before our stitch marker of our knit only row. Transfer my stitch marker over, and I'm still keeping that stitch marker even though this last row we have only a few stitches left. I'm still keeping that stitch marker so I know where I started. Now we're going to do it on the ones, which means 1 and the next one, 1 and the next one. So virtually we are doing a knit 2 together all the way around. So here's 1, keeping it tight. There's another one. I'm going to take this one out and I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to knit from this one because there are fewer stitches. So I'm just going to slide that one down and continue. Knit these two together. If you have some trouble knitting them together, bring them a little closer down to the tips here, and it'll give you a little more room inside that stitch. Continuing with knitting 2 together. I'm looking on the back side to see if I've split any stitches there. Pay attention to where your yarn is coming from. It needs to be right here next to it. Two more. Pulling it tight. Now, this one, I have one left. I'll put that one on there. I'll take that one out. Hey, that'll be nice. Now I'm going to continue on because I just have a couple left. Tighten it up. Next two. Now I have one left, but remember we have one here, and then we have one over here next to the stitch marker. Put that there. Knit these last two. Now you could, if you want to, do another knit row. At this point, I do not. I remove my stitch marker. I'm going to put that stitch over here. And we now only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches left. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get a darning needle. We're going to cut the tail, and we're going to run that through with the darning needle. Now, I cut this fairly long because I'm going to be weaving it in and out on the inside of the hat. Now we're going to start this the same way that we would be knitting. So going around. So pick up that one. I'm going to pick it up with that darning needle. Picking up the stitches. Taking the needle off. I'll pull that through, but not pulling it tight just yet. Now turn, and you'll be in the right direction, sliding those stitches down. And now we have all the needles removed. Now I am going to pull that tight. Now I'm going to push it through. This is the same as finishing the top of any hat. Now remember, we're going to have a mess in here. Don't freak out. You got all your floats and everything from before, from the color work, and we'll have to deal with that too. Again, I pull it tight. And I start a couple stitches over, and I put my needle in there. I go through a couple of the, I'm trying to be sure I've got my finger on the back side, back here. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not feeling that needle go through on that side, because you just want to pick up the inside strands, not the outside. I'll go through a few of those and kind of get established with, it establishes this as being on the inside of the hat now, and it gets it where you can get an even tighter pull to it. Now you don't want this to feel hard as a rock either. When you feel down on this, you want it to be movable and flexible. Don't get this in here to where this feels like a rock right there in the center. Just want it to be firm. Pull through some more. And now I'm going to look to see what this looks like. That looks pretty good. It's laying down nicely. So I'm going to finish this by going in other directions. But I'm always going across that center wheel of stitches. Then I go back through on at least one pass and go through the loop to form a small knot right there. Kind of pull it in now. And then go back through a few more stitches and I'm done, because that's secured it. Cut it close. And there is the top of our hat. Now your hat is done. Let me back you up a little bit. So the top of our hat is done. And you can see it has kind of a star pattern here. And this is the way your hat looks on the side. Everything looks great. Now we have to work on weaving in our color work. Now when I'm working on the color work, weaving the edges of that in, I want something that is not too dull as far as a darning needle. The one I was using earlier was just a general darning needle. That's why I have them in different sizes. And by sizes, I mean the thickness of the needle and also the sharpness at the end. And I want one that is a little sharper. This one is smaller, but yet still a little thick at the end. This one is not bad, but it's still not, it's smaller, but it's still not as sharp. And I want it just a little sharper, so I'm going to use that one. Not like a sewing needle, the sharpness of a sewing needle, but just to have that little bit of where I can poke through only a couple of the fibers. So we're going to turn our hat. Now, I'm not going to go over with you how to do your ends where it's the same color as where the tail is the same color that you are weaving into. What I'm concerned with, and because like right here, I can take this one and put it right into this color, and this one can go into this color. What I'm concerned with showing you is that our color work here is lighter than the color that we worked it into. So if we go ahead and weave that one in, willy-nilly wherever, it's going to show on the other side here. That we don't want. So my best advice for you when weaving this in is that you want to be sure and watch where you're going, and also to see if it changes your stitch pattern here. You'll be able to see it like go across and stuff. And you don't want to see it go into the other color either. So I'm going to get under here. I'm going to pick this one up. Well, if I go through this whole one here, is that going to show up on the other side? So now I'm in there. Let me turn it over and look. And no, I don't see it. So that one's okay. And this is literally how I do this. I'll go through that blue one. That should be fine. Now I like to go through just a few of the strands. So now I'm actually going through that one and not under it. And my best advice also is to go under these that are the purl side of this stitch, the one that goes over the top this direction. If you go under that, usually it's not seen on the other side. So see, we're not seeing it. So we're doing great. Now I'll go under this one and come back. And we're working along with the stitches. And again, cutting through parts of those stitches. I'm going to go all the way up and secure it in the back of here. That's all the floats. I'm not in the stitches on the front. I'm through the floats. And then I'm going to cut it. And that's one that's done, and it does not show up on the other side. Now in some cases, we might have an end. Okay, here's our other one. That's pretty good that I only have that one other float. I'm impressed with myself. Okay, my needle. I know this sounds like a lot of extra work, but this is how to do this hat. Now on the front side, I have, if you get some that look a little bit loose, like look to see where you're at. Here's where I'm at right here. So I'm gonna put my finger there and coordinate. So see, that's that one right there. See how that looks a little bit spacey open right here? We don't want that spacey and open. So back here we can see it too. Pull that a little tighter, and then I hold it. I hold that yarn right there with my thumb. Then I get my needle, go through that back. Then I'm going to do that, going through that loop and make my knot thing, which will kind of secure that down a little bit. And then I give it a little bit of a, you know, that looks better. You don't want to do it too tight because you can change the shape of the colors, the way they look, the stitches on the other side, to where they don't have the same shape that you're going with all of it. So you don't want to do it too tight, but you want to make sure there's not that gappiness. So we're good, and we've secured it. So now we can go back through a few of those strands and do like we did before. I will finish those others also. Okay, you guys, I hope this helps you to do your hat, gives you some extra tips on a lot of different things. If you watch all 3 portions of how to make this hat, you will be able to do color work a little bit, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you'll go over and get the pattern. Of course, I will leave the link to that down below. I will leave the link to the whole series. And y'all have fun today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you later.